Hi, Algebra 1. Let's run through the problems on page 81 and 82. Um, Make sure you ask me if you have any questions on any of these. Remember, we are sticking with these perfect squares, that's starting with 2 squared, which is 4, and etc. One, 2, 1, and 144, that's 12 squared. All right, so problem number 1 is root 64. Well, root 64 falls right here, so the square root of 64 is just 8. Notice the square root sign went away. Problem number 2, we have square root 50. Well, we want to break 50 down. 50 falls in here, so 25 times 2 is 50. Square root of 25 is 5, so we wind up with 5 square root 2. That one does have a square root that's involved in it because we didn't have part of the number that broke down. Root 72, so root 72 is like down here. So 64 or 49 doesn't work. 36 times 2 does. You might want a calculator to double check. You can just start from a certain route. So that's going to give me 6. So 6 square root 2 is our answer here. Problem number 4, square root 12. 12 breaks down to multiple different ways, but you want to use the 4 times 3 because 4 is the biggest perfect square. So I get 2 square root 3. Number 5, root 108. 108 is falls in here, so 100 doesn't work, 81 doesn't work, 64 doesn't work, 49 doesn't work. Let's see, 36 and 3 do work. So square root of 36 is 6, so I get 6 square root 3. Again, you're looking for your largest perfect square that is from our list that is part of the number. Root 96, so 96 falls in here. 81 doesn't work, 64 doesn't work, 49 doesn't work. Let's see what works. I would think, well, sometimes when you can't see it, oh, I think 16 works. Is 16 times 696, let's see, that's 36. Yep, 16 and 6 both work. 16 is our biggest perfect square, so I'm going to get 4 square root 6 for an answer. Okay. As we go down the page, I'm going to go ahead and list the perfect squares again over here to the side, which you have at the top right of your paper. Okay. If you ever need a generator, it's just 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, etc. All right, which number were we on? We got to number 6. Number 7, we have root 27. So root 27 falls here, so 9 and 3 are going to work, which is going to give me an answer of 3 square root 3. Number 8, 48 is a tricky one. 48 falls, here, but 48 is actually 16 times 3. 16 is the largest perfect square. 4 does indeed work, but that's not the biggest perfect square. So I'm going to get 4 square root 3 because square root of 16 is 4. Number 9, root 125. So 125 is down here, so you just kind of move up the list, making sure what works. And 25 times 5 is going to work. So square root of 25 is 5, so I get 5 root 5. Number 10, square root 20. So 20 falls in here, so that's going to be 4 and 5. Don't use 2 and 10 because you want the biggest perfect square. So square root of 4 is 2, so I get 2 square root 5. Number 11 says root 7 times root 7. Root 7 times root 7. Remember, inside and inside multiply together to give me root 49. 49 is one of our perfect squares, so our answer just comes out to 7. There's no radical there, no square root sign. Then I get root 6 times root 10. That's going to give me root 60. So 60 falls in here. So think about what works with 60. And it's going to be 4 and 15. So 4 is the biggest perfect square, so I get 2 root 15 here. Number 13, again, I'll list my numbers. I got 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, and 144. So 13 is root 11 times root 22. Okay, so if I multiply those together, I'm going to wind up getting, let's see, is that 242? Yeah, 242 if you multiply it, which 242 is off our list, but run 121 works. So that's 121 times 2, which is 11 root 2, because square root of 121 is 11. Number 14, I get 2 root 6 times 4 root 12. Let's multiply outside first. So 2 and 4 multiply to give me 8, and 6 and 12 multiply together to give me 72. So let's break 72 up. 72 falls here. So I'd say 36 times 2 is 72. What's the square root of 36? Well, it's 6, and that 6 is going to join that 8 outside. So that's going to give me 48 root 2. And then number 15, I'll squeeze down here. We have 2 root 3 times root 24. So 2 times there's a 1 outside, so I get 2. 3 times 24 is 72. 72 falls about here, and you're going to find that that's going to be 36 times 2. Square root of 36 is 6, so I have 2 times 6 outside, which is going to lead me to an answer of 12 root 2. All right, to the back side, continuing with what we've been working on. Again, I'm going to list my perfect squares: 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144. So problem number 16, we have root 5 times root 175. Okay, so now we're starting to get into a little bit of weird category here. We can go ahead and try and multiply those together. If we multiply those together, 5 times 175 is 875. Okay, so now it becomes kind of tough because 875 is way down low on the list. So I'm not sure it's going to work, but what I'm going to do is with my calculator, I'm going to say, okay, I think 25 is going to work. So 25, and if you go 875 divided by 25, and that's going to come out to 35, and that worked out real nicely because the square root of 25 is 5. 35 doesn't have any perfect squares, so 25 doesn't go into it. 16, 9, and 4 don't go into it, so I just get 5 square root 35. Number 17, we have 5 root 50 times 100. So a couple ways you could think about this. What's the square root of 100? Well, that's 10. So I'm going to get 5 times 10 root 50. So that's going to give me 50 root 50. And then you can break 50 down. 50 is going to break down to 25 times 2. So square root of 25 is 5. So the 5 comes out front. And then multiply those together. So I'm going to get 250 root 2. And I think I can squeeze number 18 down here maybe. I'm going to get negative 2 root 12 times root 12. If you multiply root 12 and root 12 together, that's got to give you a perfect square, which is 144. So that's going to give me 12. Notice the square roots are gone because the square root of 144 is indeed 12. That gives me an answer of negative 24. Number 19, listing our perfect squares over here. And again, it's good practice to just keep always listing the perfect squares. I mean, if you do it over and over and over again, you will know them. Okay, again, this is an infinite list. I'm only writing up through 12 squared. So number 19, I'm going to get 3 root 2 times 2 root 32. Multiply outside, outside, so 3 times 2 is 6. Inside, inside is root 2 times root 32, which is root 64. 64 is a perfect square, so the square root of 64 is 8. So 6 times 8 is going to give me 48. Number 20, I get negative 2 root 3 times 3 root 75. So I multiply outside, outside, so that's going to give me negative 6 because negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. If I multiply inside, 3 times 75 is 225. Okay, so if I keep going on this list, it would go to 169, 196, and then 225. So this is 13 times 13, 4 times 14, and 15 times 15. If you just did square root of 225 on your calculator, it'll come out to just 15. So you get 6 times 15, or negative 6 times 15. Negative 6 times 15 is 90, so I wind up with a negative 90 for an answer. Number 21, I get root 3 times root 27. If I multiply those together, I wind up getting root 81. 81 is a perfect square, so my answer comes out to 9. All right, for the last ones, we're going to work with the Pythagorean theorem. Remember, that's the relationship when we have a right triangle. So we're calling this side A, side B, and side C. So for problem number 22, they have side A being 6, side B being 8, so we have to find C. So I'm going to go 6 squared, because remember, this is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to get 6 squared plus 8 squared, and that's equal to C squared. 6 times 6, or 6 squared, is 36. 8 times 8 is 64. That's equal to C squared. If we add these together, we get 100. Take the square root of both sides. Well, it's the square root of 100. Yeah, it's 10. Well, we'll do the next one in red. Let's see, number 23. They tell us that B equals 12, C equals 13. Find A. So I know that this is 13. I know that this is 12. So let's set up a problem. Let's see, I have A squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. So 12 times 12 is 144. So 12 squared is 144. 13 squared is 13 times 13, which is 169. Subtract 144 from 169 to get 25. Take the square root of both sides, so I'm going to get A equals 5. And then number 24, we can squeeze here. We have A equals 4, C equals 6. Find B. Okay, so I have A equals 4. C equals 6, so we have to find B, so I'm going to go A squared plus B squared is equal to 6 squared. So 4 squared is 16 plus B squared equals 6 squared is 36. Subtract 16 from both sides, so I wind up getting 20. Take the square root of both sides. Well, 20 breaks down to 4 times 5, so that's going to give me an answer of 2 root 5. If you have any questions about these, please ask me. Also, a reminder, I will be gone Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week, so it's just going to be all videos for you, so make sure your phones or your computer are charged and ready to go for class. I will go over any homework problems, and don't give the substitute any paperwork, okay? Just do what you need to do, and then when I get back on Monday, I will check off all of the problems. Okay, so we're going to be on page 83. So I got to go backwards on these. Okay, so root 2 times root 2 is root 4. What's root 4? Yeah, it's just 2. Root 8 times root 8 is root 64. What's the square root of 64? Just 8. Notice there's no longer a perfect square. Root 97 times root 97. This is a really big number, but notice when I keep multiplying the same two numbers together, my square root, so this is just going to come out to 97. So think about x times x. X times x is going to give me x squared. That's a perfect square. The square root of x squared is just going to be x. And then this one, I'm going to get x squared times x squared, so add the exponents. So the square root of that is going to give me x squared. Do you see the pattern that's taking place? Notice the 2, the 8, the 97, the x, and the x squared were the inside numbers. So what do you think this last one's got to be? Yeah, it's got to be x to the third. So perfect squares are two numbers that are identical that when multiplied together would give you a perfect square. So let's see. I don't believe you have this page. I don't. But it's okay to look at. So this just becomes this. That's not a perfect square, but this becomes x. This becomes x to the second. This becomes x to the third, x to the fourth. So on these, you don't have the notes. You can squeeze this down at the bottom of page 84. You take half of the exponent when you take the square root. Okay, that's kind of the, so remember the square root's that, okay? All right, so what do we have here? Well, what's the square root of 4? Well, it's 2. What's the square root of x squared? Well, we take half of that. Half of 2 is 1, so x to the first, or just x. Done. What about x to the third? This is where things start getting a little goofier. All right, so think about this. Is x to the third the same thing as x squared times x to the first? Remember, we add the exponents, so that's 3. Well, what's the square root of x squared? Yeah, that's equal to x, and then I have square root x inside. I could put the 1 right there if I wanted to. I don't have to. It's not wrong if you do. All right, so take this next one. So I'm going to make this x to the fourth times x to the first, because remember, if we add those together, I get 5. What's half of x to the fourth? It's x to the second. So the square root of x to the fourth is x to the second, and then I have x to the first. I could leave it like this, or I could put the 1 in there. It's your choice. All right, so now we're going to break this up. Okay, so I'm going to break that up to 4 and 5. And then I'm going to break this up into x to the sixth times x to the first, because remember, if I add the exponents, that gets that. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of x to the sixth will take half of your exponent, and then I get 5x, or 5x to the first. There's my answer. Let's go ahead and do this one. Square root of 36 is 6. Square root of this is going to give me just x. I'm going to take half of it. I could put x to the first if I wanted to. And then realize this, that's going to break up to y squared times y, because if I add those together, I get that. Square root of y squared is going to just give me y, and then I'm left with that. And I could put the 1s on each one if I wanted to. I don't have to. Take a look at this one, square root 200. Well, that's going to break up to 100 times 2. A squared I'm going to leave like that. B to the third I'm going to break up to b to the second times b to the first. And c to the fourth I'm going to leave like that. That's a perfect square. So square root of 100 is 10. Square root of a squared is a. Square root of b squared is b. Square root of c to the fourth is c to the second. And that's going to leave me 2b under the square root. So that's my answer. Again, if you have any questions about these, please ask me. I'm happy to help. Last problem, let's multiply inside inside. So that's going to give me square root 180. I'm going to add these exponents. So x to the third and x to the fifth is x to the eighth, and that becomes a perfect square. And then I get y squared times y. Well, I'm going to leave that as y squared times y. It's y to the third, but you're going to have to break it down anyhow. All right, so 180. So let's think of our perfect square. So I got 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144. So 180 is down here. So what do you think would multiply? So I'm pretty sure 121 is not going to work. I'm pretty sure 81 won't work. I don't think 64 will work. 49 won't work, but I wonder if 36 works. Yeah, 36 does work. 36 times 5. Okay, and then I have x to the eighth, y to the second, y. Remember, that would have been y to the third, because if I add the exponents. So square root of 36 is 6. Square root of x to the eighth, we'll take half of it. So that becomes x to the fourth. Square root of y to the second is just y to the first, or just y. And then I'm left with 5 square root 5y underneath the radical. Okay, so your homework for tonight is going to be page 85, 85 and 86. And I think you can do all of them. I will have tomorrow's video, we'll have all of those worked out. So make sure you have them all worked out. I'll give you all the points for it. I mean, there's 3 assignments we're going to be looking at come Monday. So make sure you have all of your problems written down, and we can then make sure you get the points for that. So there's not going to be any quizzes this week. I imagine sometime next week we will have a quiz. And I'm sorry I'll be gone on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Just please be good. We monitor your bathroom usage. Some of you are taking too much advantage of going to the bathroom, and you're missing a great deal of class, and unfortunately your grades are kind of suffering because of it. So monitor your bathrooms. I actually asked the sub not to allow you guys to use the restroom, but if you have a dire emergency, please ask the sub on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Like, I really have to go, and just make sure you take care of yourself. Okay, have a nice day.